Welcome back.
We're now in Cebu. We finished up our 3-week biking trip of Taiwan.
We wanted to do a little wrap-up video, kind of summarize what's happened, how we feel about it, with a little hindsight.
Why we did it, would we do it again?
The basic idea for this trip was a huandao, which is literally island lap or something like that. It's a tradition in Taiwan to, maybe after you graduate high school or university, to cycle around the perimeter of the island.
Generally, this was traditionally done on bicycles, but now I believe it's more commonly done on scooters or even on the train. So we decided to do a huandao because we had done shorter bike trips in the past in the south of Taiwan and also on the east coast, and we thought it would be a cool idea to try to go all the way around.
Our route wasn't exactly a huandao. We didn't really close the loop, but we did add extra distance to make the ride both more challenging and a little bit more beautiful.
This was actually a bucket list trip for me. I've been wanting to cycle around Taiwan for a while now, and we thought this is the year to do it. We're not getting any younger.
Credit to Bamboo Tours for organizing a really nice route.
You feel very encouraged because of the history of doing a huandao. This was often done after high school or university graduation. A lot of the people around the country are very supportive. So we heard a lot of jayo, which is more oil or keep going, from other cyclists, but also just from random people on the street.
We started in Hualien. The first few days were fairly flat, fairly easy, a good way to get our legs under us. We came south sort of along a valley, which was pretty easy. The first big climb day was getting out of that valley.
We made our way over one of the bigger mountains to get to the coast and to ride into Taidang.
After Taidang, we had probably our most technically challenging day. We had a bunch of climbs as we sort of picked our way through the mountains. It was raining that day, so we were soaked.
It was also one of our longest ride days at around 95K. So that was kind of our first difficult day, but we made it in good time.
We were really glad to have a rest day once we did.
We had 2 days from Kenting to Tainan, and those were supposed to be fairly easy days.
But as with every day when we thought things were going to be fairly easy, wind played up and we had a headwind for a lot of it.
But we also made it to Tainan, and in Tainan we had a great rest day.
We got to see Prazi and Glory on the rest day, which was really nice.
And they took us on a food tour of Tainan for one of his videos. So that was a lot of fun.
After our rest day in Tainan, I think we were both still feeling pretty good. We had our 3 big climb days as we made our way up to Sun Moon Lake. Usually the route to Sun Moon Lake would involve 1 big climb day. We had a route that strung us through the mountains.
So for our first big climb day up to Guanziling, we had a lot of elevation gain, but then a lot of elevation loss.
And then had some smaller climbs as we sort of worked our way along the foothills to our hotel. We had a rest day in Guanziling, which helped, but I think we were starting to feel a little worn by that climb.
The ride from Guanziling to Gukang was a lot harder.
We went down and across the flats and then had 1 big climb for about 600 meters up to the hotel.
It was our most elevation gain day at about 1,300 meters elevation gain. And that ride and climb was straight up.
That climb on a hot day, I think, really took it out of both of us.
But we made it, glad to say. And we stayed at a beautiful little homestay in the hills in Gukang with the sweetest owner who made us a hot pot dinner and showed us around her gorgeous garden.
After that, we had to go down again and lose that elevation, and then the big climb into Sun Moon Lake.
This day, we didn't have a rest day before, and we went straight out from our biggest climb day, and so that was really difficult.
By the Sun Moon Lake day, both of us were feeling pretty worn.
Particularly because it was about 31 degrees and very humid. I made it to about lunch and was not sure I was going to make the climb.
After lunch, we started the big climb, and I think it's fair to say Kat really wasn't feeling it.
And about halfway up the big climb, I decided I couldn't do it.
That was the one moment we were glad Kenji was nearby.
And I was able to get in the van and enjoy some of the AC, but Greg continued on the bike because he's a trooper.
Kat took a lift up the hill while I continued, but I think it's fair to say for both of us, those 3 big climb days really wore us down.
So he and Cappy, our little capybara, Made it to Sun Moon Lake after a lot of climbing and ups and downs.
And we're pretty glad to be coming to the end of the tour.
We had a nice and relaxing rest day at Sun Moon Lake.
The last two ride days, down to Lukang and into Taichung, I think should have felt easy, and they really didn't.
But it was also quite windy, and so quite challenging.
We were getting pretty worn down by that point.
Our last day into Taichung was quite short. We made it there before lunch.
By the last ride day, both of us, I think, went through a mood shift.
Because I think by that time, we were pretty tired.
We started the day feeling pretty good, and somewhere along that last 30 or so kilometers, started to think, what are we doing? Why did we plan any of this trip? This is crazy.
I'm really proud of both of us. I mean, we're almost 50. We didn't really train, and we did it. We rode almost 1,000 kilometers.
We gained about 8,800 meters in elevation across the whole thing.
And we actually did a route that was more challenging than the typical Huandao, which usually follows Bike Route 1 and is quite coastal on the west coast. We chose to go to Sun Moon Lake, which had a lot of elevation.
But we managed to do it.
But it was hard, I think, because we didn't really train for this ride. So we were kind of coming in not really prepared, but thinking, let's try.
I think it's fair to say that for serious cyclists, that's not a huge trip, but we're not serious cyclists. We're almost 50. We didn't do a huge amount of training for this. And I'm pretty proud of actually managing to just get to the end.
In a typical day, we would start off quite energized and ready to go. And by the time we got to lunch, I think we were still okay, but I think happy to be able to stop for lunch. It was quite difficult, at least for me, to get back on the bike after lunch.
The mental challenge for the whole trip, I think, kind of snuck up on us. The having to get back on the bike day after day, having to get back on the bike just after lunch and knowing you had another 30 kilometers or something started to really take a toll.
I think we just wanted to get to the hotel.
But we did it. We covered the miles, we managed all the climbs, and we got through it.
This was a bucket list trip and a tour of a lifetime for both of us.
I'm definitely going to remember this trip, really in its entirety. There were a lot of individual moments that were really cool, but really just the whole trip and managing to finish that ride is something I'm never going to forget, and it was awesome.
Not sure we'll ever do a trip this challenging again. Maybe we will, we'll see.
A shout out to Simon and Tot from Bamboo Trails.
We've booked with Tot and Simon in the past through Grasshopper Tours, which have kind of set tour packages.
They did a really good job planning the tour. Kenji was a great guide, and I'm so glad he was out there with us.
And was there so that I could get into the van when I was overheating.
If you're thinking about cycling in Taiwan, big trips, small trips, whatever it is, I think we'd recommend them very highly.
I would definitely recommend their company if this is something that you would want to do in the future, even for shorter rides.
So thanks for joining us on our adventure.
Thanks for sticking with us.
I'll try to do a video from the Philippines. I'm not sure we're doing a whole lot of exciting stuff here, but keep an eye out, maybe subscribe, and we'll see you around.